Hello and good morning, friends. Today we're going to be taking a look at a septic system that's underneath the driveway. We don't know what we're working with yet, but we're going to get it open and hopefully nothing crazy is going to happen. All right, so we can see that we have our tank right here. So we have our clean out right in the front with this flower pot over top. Unfortunately, the hole on the bottom of that flower pot is making it to where all those rocks are escaping the moment you pick it up. So that's going to be fun to deal with in a few minutes. We've got our manhole riser in the middle. Somebody's cut the asphalt at some point, so presumably this is a newer access point, which is great. Makes it where we can get into the tank pretty easily. So this tank should be here, and then right over here should be the dry well, should be the absorption system. Unfortunately, that lid is cross-threaded, and it's going to be a pain to get out, but we need to get these lids open, and we need to see what we're working with. Hopefully, it's nothing too crazy and no damage from the weight of this driveway and any vehicles that have been on it. Okay, so we've gone ahead and opened up all the lids. We've looked inside the tank. We don't see any kind of cracks, breaks, roots, nothing squirrely going on, which is good. We open up the tank, liquid level's right where it belongs, and we are putting water in to verify the pipe between the two is wide open. You can hear the water flowing nice and smooth from the tank back to this pit. Now, the concern with putting a driveway over top your tank is the additional weight as well as the installation process. You know, those machines that lay the asphalt and compact it all down, they're very heavy, and these tanks aren't super thick or meant to really kind of handle that level of weight. Like if you look at the thickness of this wall, you see it's only a couple inches thick. So if you put a large dump truck on there, you do run the risk of cracking it. Now, the larger concern is by having all of this nice landscaping and the asphalt, if something does go wrong, like a baffle fails, or if you have to replace a pipe, all of it's getting torn up, and that adds additional costs that are completely unnecessary. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, isn't there a rule that you can't put a driveway over top of a septic tank? And believe it or not, no. No, there's not a rule. It's just strongly frowned against. The issue, again, is the additional cost and the weight. But most people, you do whatever you want on your property. As long as it's not considered a permanent structure, the county doesn't really care too much. So, they'll get a little bit fussy if you're putting that stuff in there, but beyond that, you're not really going to be in too much trouble. It just makes it hard to maintain it and deal with it. So generally you'll see this on houses where you're on a hill, right? So this particular home's got a pretty aggressive hill. Now, they have the driveway next to the tank, so the garage next to the tank, so I'm not 100% sure what the game plan was in the design. They really should have put it somewhere over here like this. So we see that we got our tank right here. We've got the garage right there. We have this beautiful wide open little spot next to this tree. This would have made a lot more sense to have this put over here instead of being put right next to the garage, because basically by putting it right here, you're almost essentially asking to have this area paved at some point to make it a little bit easier to get in and out of your garage, but also so if you have guests over, that way they have more parking space. So if you're building a new home, it's a good idea to keep in mind where your systems are going to be and what all you plan to do with the property. This one, for perspective, they ran a business out of their house, so they needed some space to put people when they came and went from the business. So it makes sense to have a larger parking pad. But in the construction of the home, it would have been a good idea to have thought about that in the process. The reason I say that is this was the original owner and the builder. So if you're building your home, it's a good idea to think about what do you plan to do in the future for your property so you can adjust accordingly. Like, you don't want to accidentally hurt yourself in the future. So the big issue with this is not necessarily any legal ramifications. It's just going to be additional costs and expenses when it comes time to repair or replace parts of the septic system. So that being said, it's very important to make sure that if you too have a system like this, leave a comment below. Do you have a driveway over your tank? Who knows? Do you even know where your tank is? So it's more important to make sure that you take care of the tank. How you do that is you pump it out regularly. These tanks are designed to capture the solids, but if you're putting stuff down there that doesn't belong getting down there, it'll work its way to the dry well, which causes additional stress on it and can eventually cause it to fail prematurely. You'll get people out there that say, oh, a functional septic system, you never have to pump your tank, you don't have to do any of that, right? In a perfect world, maybe. There's more science and more evidence to prove that is a wrong interpretation. You want to pump out your tank generally every 3 to 4 years, no more than 5. And the reason you want to do that at no more than 5 is something's going to break. It's very important to make sure that you have an idea of what's broken when it does break. For perspective, this particular tank is under the driveway. It has a concrete back baffle. Sewer gas is incredibly corrosive, and what will happen is over the course of many years, the sewer gases will eat up that concrete until eventually it becomes so weak it just kind of falls off on its own. Fortunately for this particular property, the system looks like it's in pretty good shape. I just wanted to have the conversation with you about driveways. Make sure you're not putting them over your tank. If you don't know where your tank is, locate your tank before you put the driveway in. And if you do have a driveway, it's very important to make, or if you do have a driveway on top of the tank, it's very important to make sure that you're putting stuff around it, making it accessible at the surface, and so that way people don't park on it specifically. I hope that you found this enjoyable. I have videos posted every day on the World of Well and Septic. Hit that like button, hit subscribe, and until next time, guys.